Senator Kramer, get comfortable.
We
We now
ma'am.
move to MC 823, Montgomery County Speed Monitoring Systems, Maryland Route 200 Inter-County Connector, requested by Senator Kramer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, good evening, colleagues. Ben Kramer introducing MC 823 in partnership with my District 19 House colleagues, Delegates Cullison, Stewart, Crutchfield, and I don't want to speak out of school, but I think we're working in tandem with our District 14 team as well. I know they were all part of the effort last session on this issue, and it should be vaguely familiar to you, colleagues. We had some discussion last year about bringing speed cameras to the inter-county connector Route 200. The ICC goes from one end to the other end in our legislative district in 19. It goes from one end to the other end of our neighbors in District 14. It also goes into District 39, and I believe even has some access into District 17. For those of you who travel the inter-county connector, you will quickly glean that this is the Audubon of Montgomery County. I drive it daily, as do many of the residents of the county, as they gain access to the I-270 corridor and the I-95 corridor. And the day before yesterday, I had a car that went past me, and I have no doubt it was traveling every bit of 90+ miles an hour. There was a time when the ICC was very heavily policed. You could not travel 2 miles without coming upon Maryland Transportation Authority police vehicles. And people knew, if you speed, you get a ticket. During the course of the current administration, as we have seen across all state agencies, they have been starved for resources. The Maryland Transportation Authority is no different. Personnel positions have been left vacant. This administration has left them without the resources to be able to do in-person patrolling on the inter-county connector, and as a consequence, enforcement has just become few and far between. We have an opportunity to utilize technology to bring those speeds down. And I will share with you that, yes, this is a public safety issue. A car traveling at 80 or 90 miles an hour that wrecks is going to be far more severe than a vehicle traveling in the 50 to 60 mile an hour range. It is also an issue of quality of life for the residents who live along the inter-county connector right-of-way. It was a very controversial roadway when it was built because the county had allowed the development to occur along that master planned right-of-way for decades. We didn't have the infrastructure, but the housing went up. All of a sudden, literally thousands of people now had their yards backing up to a high-speed highway. The sound barriers that were built along the inter-county connector to mitigate the volume of noise from the cars is predicated upon cars traveling at a prescribed speed. That speed is not 70, 80, 90 miles an hour. with every 5 miles per hour increase in speed, the volume of noise goes up dramatically. So our goal in District 19 is to support the residents of our legislative district that have sent us to Annapolis to represent them. And I hope that all of you understand and appreciate the importance of that and will support us in our effort to improve the lives of our constituents. The bill last year that was introduced provided for a speed camera at between every single exit along the intercounty connector. For many of you, that was a bridge too far. This year's bill provides that there will be a total along this near 17-mile stretch of highway of only 4 cameras, of which at any given time, only 2 will actually be functioning. The other 2 will not. The people on the road will not know which of the 4 cameras may or may not be functioning. So we accomplish the goal of slowing speed down, as people will not know, and I see I'm getting a look from my good friend Delegate Resnick over here, questioning the logic. And I will explain that the logic, Delegate Resnick, is there was a lot of concern having more than 2 cameras. That was expressed last year, having more than 2 cameras on the entirety of the ICC. So I am recognizing that that might be the will of my colleagues here, that only 2 cameras will function at any given time. But there will be 4 cameras on the intercounty connector, 2 of which will be working at any given time, and they also can be relocated so that people don't get in the habit and routine of knowing, okay, when I go past the George Avenue exit to Wheaton or Olney, there's a camera, but once I get past it and I get closer to Lay Hill Road's exit, there's nothing, I can fly. Periodically, those cameras will be relocated, and the goal here is to utilize what we have in the way of technology. And for so many of this delegation who have looked to minimize interaction between law enforcement and the community and our motorists, this is the opportunity to do just that. Let's take advantage of the technology and afford greater safety on the intercounty connector and improve quality of life for those residents who live along the ICC. With that, I would certainly welcome any questions from my colleagues. And if not, Madam Chair, then we can certainly, at your choosing, move on to those who are here to support the bill. I note there is no opposition.
Thank you, Senator Kramer. I see some questions. Delegate Resnick.
Thank you. Senator Kramer, I was just amusing myself, reminding of back in the old days when we used to do executions by firing squad. Some of the bullets were blank so that no one soldier doing the firing felt guilty about actually killing somebody. And this just reminded me of that.
Got it.
But I do have a question. Have you had a chance to talk to the administrators of the speed cameras to see whether or not they have the technical capacity to cycle them, what the cycling pattern would be, et cetera?
Yeah, no, I haven't asked them what the cycling pattern would be. That would be up to Montgomery County. Montgomery County will, in fact, operate the cameras, and they will have the, look, all of this is contracted out, but they will work with the contractors to determine when the cameras get moved And my recollection is this delegation last year passed a bill that we put this into the hands of the Department of Transportation, took it out of our police department, so they would have the discretion. And I would hope be willing to work with the community to, work on where are we going to be locating the cameras. I will note on bringing that up, thank you, Delegate Resnick, that my friends from the Maryland Department of Transportation the Transportation Authority called me yesterday and said they have a technical amendment in order to effectuate the legislation, and they said that they would work on that and provide it to me right after the start of the year. And I also note that Montgomery County government also has a technical amendment. The bill drafter used the word mobile to describe the ability to move the cameras about. Evidently, the definition for that as it exists is that it's a human being in a van with a speed camera. Clearly not the intent, so I will work with the county to change that language to be relocatable or whatever is appropriate. But yes, thank you for your question, Delegate. Appreciate that.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Senator Kramer. I think one question about the revenue, right? If we got a fine, can we designate those fines to help the residents to increase the sound barriers along their backyard?
Well, interestingly enough, the way the State Highway Administration works is they are governed predominantly by federal law on those sound barriers and their installation and when they are mandated by federal law. Unfortunately, that was all determined at what are the speeds at the time of the installation of the roadway. And it is very difficult to get the Maryland Department of Transportation to make changes to those sound barriers, but your point is very well taken.
So how about the other approach? Now, when we get revenue of fine, we allocate some funding to help the residents living along the road, right? Improve their windows.
Yeah.
Use that fund.
Very good point, and thank you for sharing that, and that's well taken. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Delegate Moon.
Delegate Moon, before you ask me any questions, I hope you will reflect on the fact that I did not ask one question of your bills when you were sitting at the table here. Now, having said that, what can I do for you, sir?
Harry, I apologize. I should have thought about reciprocity from the jump, but here we are.
Here we are.
No, this is pretty simple question, and I might have missed it in the bill text, but I'm curious what fine amount is anticipated in how this goes forward, and what appeal process is anticipated. And let me invoke our former colleague Al Carr here, who used to ask questions about what the rationale was behind fine amounts, and he'd point, in Ohio, they have deterrents with only a $20 fine, and here in Maryland, it's $250. And I do have to say, I have more pause the higher the fine amounts lead to the possibility of someone missing a rent payment or whatever. And then on the appeal process, the ICC is the source of a giant clogjam in district courts because the toll violation appeals need to be appealed to district court. And maybe someone explained this to me long ago, and I'm an idiot and forgot what the reason for that is. But if there's at any way possible to avoid that for how this gets set up, it would be appreciated. I've always found that an unusual system. The judges came in and asked for millions of dollars to deal with the docket. And when you looked at where the volume of cases was coming from, it was all these darn ICC appeals. So curious if you've gone that far down the policy road.
Well, being a law-abiding citizen, Delegate Moon, I believe, but I don't know definitively, that it's a $40 fine speed camera violations, and this does not do anything to change either the fine or the appeals process that currently exists in place within the district court. I can't opine on the violations with the tolls. I know there has been some controversy that rears its head from time to time, especially with the late fees. But this does not change anything that currently exists.
Any further questions for the sponsor? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our panel. The list of witnesses I have are Helene Rosenheim from Greater Olney Civic Association, Mark Friedman, Hallowell Homeowners Association, John Seng, Safe Roads Maryland Coalition for Road Safety, John Becker, Mindy Badin, William Kassman, and Raymond Lombardo. We'll just start at the end right here and move on down.
Good evening. There we go. Thank you. Good evening to representatives from the Maryland House of Delegates and other interested parties. My name is Mark Friedman. I'm the president of the Hallowell Homeowners Association, a 650-home community in the town of Olney, Maryland. I appreciate your time to share my beliefs on the importance of supporting proposed Bill MC 8-23, speed monitoring systems on the Maryland Route 200. I'd like to begin by sharing two numbers with you, 35,820 and 42,915. The first number is the total population of Olney, Maryland, as recorded in the National 2020 Census. The second number, 42,915, is the total number of people who died in 2021 motor vehicle crashes nationwide, as reported by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Think about that for just a moment. 7,000 more people than the entire population of Olney in just 1 year. Okay? And what's most concerning about that is that if you compare these fatalities to just 10 years earlier, right, in 2011, the death count increased by more than 10,000 lives. Yet it's not just that we have more vehicles on the roadway today. The normalized number, the fatality rate per 100 million vehicle miles traveled, increased 21% over that same period of time. To focus on the growing problem of traffic accident fatalities, according to the NHTSA, the top reason is simple and clear to us. People are driving too fast for road conditions. Now let's take these numbers for a moment to the identified problem of reducing speed and reckless driving on the Maryland 200 Inter-County Connector. For those of you who have driven on the ICC, there's no question you have seen vehicles in all lanes moving well in excess of the posted 60-mile-an-hour speed limit. And while I do not carry a radar gun in my car, there's no question that I've witnessed vehicles traveling in the left lane at least 100 miles an hour. And usually they are just speeding recklessly, weaving in and out of the traffic to avoid hitting other vehicles. This callous disregard for the law has begun to have some consequences if we are to make roadways in our communities safe for the majority of our drivers. While policing forces cannot stop all the violators, we can and we must employ additional methodologies to help reduce the risk of accidents and deaths on such a major thoroughfare. The addition of speed cameras has proven to be a successful aid in reducing such speeding, and adding them on the ICC will make our roadways safer for families and law-abiding drivers. And let's be honest, the only people who would oppose implementing speed cameras are the people who know they're breaking the law. Let's not concede to their entitlement. Thank you for your time. Appreciate your attention.
Good evening, members of the delegation. I'm Helene Rosenheim, president of the Greater Olney Civic Association, an umbrella association representing over 30 citizen and homeowners associations in the Greater Olney area, and I'm speaking in support of MC 823. Our association has played a significant role in shaping the growth of the Olney community, particularly since the passage of the 1980 master plan. And concern with transportation issues and traffic congestion and safety are not new to our organization. For example, in the past, we were instrumental in the elimination of a dangerous S-curve on Route 97 north of Route 108. In recent years, our concerns about traffic safety and excessive speeding have been growing. Across the Maryland footprint, including Montgomery County, traffic safety is stated as a priority. Across the state, too many vehicles are traveling at speeds far exceeding 100 miles per hour, and too many drivers are taking overt actions to evade detection by the technology employed to help reduce speeding. This is not a new problem nor a new concern for GOCA, and that is why we are here tonight, in particular because of our concerns about the safety on the inter-county connector, as well as other roads. These concerns have been raised by multiple people, by institutions like the AAA, and community groups to state and local elected officials. To date, the state has failed to pass any legislation to properly address the problem, and the state will once again have more than 500 people die on their roadways. GOCA, which supported the legislation considered last year relating to speed cameras, also supports the measures provided in MC 823. Like many complex problems, though, solutions will also need to be complex. No one piece of legislation will completely solve the problem of excessive speeds on our roadways. It will likely take multiple legislative actions, each taking a little bite out of this problem, till we achieve our goal of increased safety on our roads. Towards that end, GOCA supports the use of speed cameras, a proven effective method of speed enforcement that does not require stopping violating motorists, as proposed in Senator Kramer's legislation. But we believe that more will need to be done. We would also like to see graduated fines for vehicles that are traveling in excess of 100 miles per hour. In a conversation with the county assistant chief of police, we learned that many vehicles have been tracked at speeds of 195 miles. What highly populated, civilized community would find this acceptable?
Good evening. Thank you for hearing us out. My name is Raymond Lombardo. I live in the Colesville-Fairland area of Silver Spring. I think that's District 14, not far from the interchange of the ICC and US 29 off of Fairland Road. We have lived in that neighborhood for almost 20 years and did not oppose the construction of the ICC because we have a lot of activities that go on in our family in the western part of Montgomery County. Senator Kramer has really summed up very well the reasons for the bill. I can't add a lot to that, and as a citizen, I'd rather just give you a little bit of color, a couple things that I'd like you to consider. The first thing is, when the road was built, there was an understanding that the speed limit would be 60 miles an hour, and it was heavily enforced, as the senator said. That has just gone by the wayside, and oftentimes, if you're out on a nice evening, I mean, one of the great things about Montgomery County, we have the best park system. People are outside. So you're outside with friends, you're in a park, you've got your dogs and stuff, and then if it's a Friday evening or a Saturday evening, particularly in the summertime when it stays light out late, it sounds like you live near a drag strip. It's not acceptable in a civilized community. All the safety issues that it raises, it degrades the quality of life and completely undermines any sense of community we have. This is an antisocial and dangerous behavior. The other thing I'd like to offer, because I am, you know, in my younger years, I wasn't as responsible as I am now and had plenty of times when I was pulled over by the police. And so I am very sympathetic to people who say, I don't want to get pulled over by the police. Our neighborhood, one of the great things about it, it is very diverse. And so, you know, we are dog owners. We see plenty of people in our neighborhood, our little local pool club. And I have yet to meet someone when we have our conversation or our you know, get together interrupted by the sound of a screaming motorcycle or a car that is clearly illegally modified and doing 100 miles an hour on the ICC. Anybody of any color can, I've yet to meet anybody who doesn't think that this is a significant problem. And so
Mr. Lombardo, your time is up, so please
Thank
wrap
you.
up. Okay, thank you.
Good evening. My name's William Kassman. I live about 2,000 feet from the wall. on the ICC at the interchange of New Hampshire Avenue on the western side. First of all, I want to live. I need them to slow down. I go out there, my kids go out there. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's raining or it's snowing or anything like that. There are people just flying by you like you're standing still, right? And I have my wife next to me, and she's badgering me because I'm doing 65. But the other thing is that the sound wall that you were talking about, our sound wall is 24 feet tall. The most measurement I got on one of my devices for the decibel was about 136 dB. That's the sound of a train horn coming by. I could sit there and tell you how fast somebody's coming down the ICC in the summertime as well as the wintertime. But the Doppler effect, I can tell you who is there, what they're doing. I'm tired of having people. I drove over here tonight. I had a guy, I'm in the right-hand lane, and he was right up on my bumper trying to get me to go faster. Now, I don't think that 4 speed cameras is enough. I think you need a lot more than that. But I missed that boat from last year because I didn't know anything about it. But I think you guys got to do something. I mean, I have to listen to it all the time. Before they built it, it was the quietest place in the world. And I've been living there for 22 years. And yes, I do use the ICC. It's very convenient, even though I didn't like it. But, you know, we got to be safe. And I'm just looking out for everybody, you know. Just like him, I had problems with the police too. So, my old age, I slowed down. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mindy Badin. I'm here in support both of bills, MC 823 and MC 623. Sitting here tonight, I'm reminded of the time about 12 years ago that my son Brett also offered testimony on a transportation issue. Brett had a developmental disability and he didn't drive. At that time, he was dependent on the Montgomery County Ride on 53 bus to get him to and from his classes at Montgomery College and his job. 12 years ago, the 53 bus route was in danger of being eliminated. Brett offered testimony as to why the bus route should continue to be offered. He spoke confidently in front of a couple of hundred people. To this day, the 53 bus route still exists, in part due to Brett's speech. I was very proud of Brett, and this memory of him speaking is dear to me. Unfortunately, the memories are all I have left of Brett. In early 2020, as a pedestrian, he joined the ranks of those who have lost their lives on Montgomery County roads. I miss Brett every day. There is a constant sadness that surrounds my heart, and my family will never be complete again. Now we have a chance to spare other families of the pain that we have felt. We have an epidemic of innocent lives, of pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorists being injured or losing their lives on the Maryland, DC, and Virginia roads. Lower speed limits reduce the number of these crashes and they save lives. And it's a fact, speed monitoring systems reduce the speeds of vehicles on our roads. These two bills in front of the legislature will increase the use of the speed monitoring systems in certain areas of Montgomery County and other areas within Maryland. Passage of these bills will encourage lower speeds on our streets, increase safety for our citizens, and save lives. These bills should be adopted into law so no other families will suffer like ours. Thank you.
Good evening, Delegate Love, Senator Kramer, and all the members of the Montgomery County Delegation. My name is John Seng. I'm founder of Safe Roads Maryland, speaking in support of MC 823. I have 3 points. Number 1, please take roadway speed limits much more seriously to address the 500 to 600 people who are killed every year on Maryland roads. We're headed for that easily in 2022. Second, current data already support speed monitoring devices on the ICC. And third, such devices are 100% appropriate. This is a facsimile of the 60-mile-an-hour speed limit sign on Maryland ICC 200 right now as we sit here. And the next item I want to hold up is something that has a lot in common with that, and maybe some of you might recognize this as a mattress tag. right? How many people, when you're driving home tonight, as you drove here this evening, how many of you said, oh, there's the speed limit, I respect that. I'm not going to treat it like a mattress tag. I'm going to respect people's lives. It's not a mattress tag, it's life or death, and it should be enforced safely and fairly. And we have that technology here in front of us today. We have the data. Increased speeding directly ties to increased risk of crashes, injuries, and fatalities. If you need the data, however, we can contact Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg, the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. We'll get the data. It's right in front of us. Also, MDTA reports average speeds on the ICC of 67 miles per hour in a 60 mile per hour speed limit zone. For every driver doing the speed limit maximum of 60 maximum, there's another driver out there bouncing him out, crawling down the road at 74 miles an hour. It's no laughing matter, believe me. Safe Roads Maryland Coalition board members in Prince George's County lobbied successfully for speed cameras along their Route 210, also known as the Highway of Death in Maryland and on the East Coast, with 80+ deaths on the roadway in the past 15 years. There's no humor in this at all. We're very animated about it. And they passionately urge, they've written to you here from Prince George's County to adopt this speed monitoring legislation on the ICC. This chart here shows that this chart here shows that speed cameras, this chart depicts crashes, on the ICC from January 2020 through November 2021. Fatalities, injuries, it's all here, a ribbon of crushed metal and disrupted lives. Next, I'd like to show you this chart, which shows that speed cameras along I-83 in Baltimore are working, reducing speed warnings by 50% in just 4 months. We believe that too many deaths is occurring currently. We ask you to take this relatively small act towards vision zero to vision reality zero. Thank you.
Thank you all. And
We have
on
one
behalf
more
of the-
speaker, I believe. We're running out of chairs.
Oh, okay, go right ahead.
However you want me to do it. Sure. Thank you very much. Excuse me while I get set up here, I apologize. Am I hitting a button here somewhere? You're all good. Oh, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm new at this. I'll be brief. Kudos to everybody who said what they said here. Senator, thank you very much. I got to tell you, that was fantastic. And for you folks, my name is John Becker. I live in Rockville here, across the street from the Metro Station, Americana Center. I'm involved with the Maryland Coalition for Roadway Safety, but I'm speaking here tonight as a homeowner and resident in the county. Couple of things. I'm looking at this bill here and all the components of it, and I'm all for everything that says on here, because what it's going to do is, as Senator Kramer alluded to, we need to have these systems installed so we can control what's going on as far as excess speeding and things of that nature. I heard comments tonight as far as maybe building more sound barriers, which are multi-million-dollar projects. This, of course, I don't know how much these speed camera systems cost, but I think they're quite less than that. And the other thing goes to quality of life of the people who live there. In my own case, I live here at Americana Center, right next to the Metro Station and Rockville Pike, and the noise down here is quite alarming as far as vehicles and things of that nature and speeding. And the thing is, all these people have lived here, and I don't think we should support or obligate them to live in a cocoon by having their homes reinforced with soundproofing and things of that nature. They purchased, they need to go out and enjoy the life and their property, and while they're up in that neighborhood, they should be able to traverse I-200 as far as driving to and from. I've been there myself, and like everybody has anecdotally stated, it's your right lane, middle lane, left lane. They're going by and they want you to go faster all the time. And for those of us who go 60, 65, this is something that needs to be addressed. I thank you very much for your time. And my ask indulgence of the chair for a maintenance request. Would you please contact somebody with Montgomery County to fix the water fountains out in the hallway because they don't work? Thank you.
Duly noted. Thank you all. And on behalf of the delegation, Ms. Badin, we are very sorry for your loss. And thank you for coming to testify. We appreciate it. Are there any questions for this panel? Seeing none, that concludes the hearing for MC 823.
Thank you, colleagues.
We now move to the final bill of the evening, MC 623, Montgomery County Speed Monitoring Systems Authorized Highway. Delegate Solomon, the floor is yours. When you can get there.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to be here in person. It's been a while. You know, we just obviously spent a lot of time talking about speed cameras, so hopefully we won't spend quite as much time on this bill. I know we're the last one between you and going home. So this bill is a little simpler, and this is a bill, frankly, that I'm really excited to be bringing forward with working in partnership with the county government as well as with the Montgomery County Police Department. So this bill would do two things. So currently, you are only allowed to place speed cameras on roads at 35 miles per hour and below. This would raise that speed limit to 45 miles per hour, and it would allow for speed cameras to be placed in non-residential areas. So right now, the law says only residential areas, so this would allow for business districts and commercial districts. In Montgomery County alone this year, we've already had almost 40 fatalities on our roads. It's a number that's increased since 2021. Our rate of speeding fatalities in Maryland is above the national average. And this bill comes directly out of a study, actually, that the county did around Vision Zero that found two key pieces. Most serious injuries and fatalities are located along our county's main arterials. I think for most of us, that's probably not a surprise. Our state highways, like Georgia Ave, Old Georgetown Road, Veers Mill Road. Those roads tend to have speed limits often in excess of 35 miles per hour. And those roads also tend to have both a healthy mixture of commercial and residential areas. The other piece I think that many of us know who have been working around the Vision Zero issue is as speeds increase, the likelihood of a fatality goes up. And so when you look at an average speed of 40 to 40 miles per hour, and give or take, most folks usually admit they go 10 to 15 miles per hour over the speed limit. When you start getting into speeds of 55 to 60 miles an hour, the likely rate of death if a pedestrian is hit is in excess of 90%. And when we start to talk about the context of a speed camera program where you would get a ticket going 10 to 11 miles over the speed limit, that's a pretty dramatic difference. And so, our county speed camera program, I think, has been lauded pretty reasonably as one of the best in the nation, and has reduced the overall effect of speeding in areas where there are cameras by about 40%. And we know in this county that nearly a third of the fatalities that we experience are as a result of speeding. So again, this is a bill that was brought forward in partnership with the county, supported by the county council, as well as obviously the county executive and our law enforcement, as well as our transportation folks. So I really would urge a favorable report. There is one just last little issue that I would highlight in the actual text of the bill. It looks like we're essentially duplicating that 35 mile per hour piece. The reason that section is in there, the way it's drafted, so in current law, Montgomery and Prince George's are combined in the same section of the code. And so the way that we wrote it was to essentially take Prince George's out of that combined section, leave Montgomery County in as its own, granting our speed limit increase to 45, changing the sections of road that they're able to be placed on. So that essential section needed to be duplicated again later on in the code just for Prince George's. So just to clear up any confusion in case when you're looking at the bill, there's a question that arises. So with that, would urge a favorable report, and would like to pass it to our colleagues here.
Great. Chair Love and members of the delegation, thank you very much for your time and for allowing me to testify tonight. Sara Morningside with the Office of Intergovernmental Relations. I'll be very brief, particularly at this late hour. The county executive and the county council support this legislation. We thank Delegate Solomon for sponsoring it, Charkoudian, Collison, Foley, Kaufman, Lopez, Shetty, Stewart, and Senator Waldstreicher. And we're very excited to be able to have this authority to be able to bring more speed cameras to our roadways that will advance our Vision Zero goals. Thank you.
Hi, good evening now. My name is Wade Holland. I'm the Vision Zero coordinator for the Montgomery County government. And before we talk about 6-23, I do want to thank all of you for your support, past, present, and future, for our Vision Zero efforts. I know many of us have all been on the sidewalks and walking across some of our most dangerous roads in the county together to talk about what we can do as combined county and state governments to make sure all of our roads, no matter who owns that roadway, are safer for everyone. So thank you for all of your work and what you will be doing to help us reach our shared Vision Zero goal. As was mentioned, the County Council and the County Executive both support 6-23, which is enabling legislation allowing us to place speed cameras on roadways up to a posted speed limit of 45 miles an hour, as well as removing the commercial zone restrictions. This is a key portion of our Vision Zero 2030 action plan, which was, I think it's called P5, which is our expansion of automated enforcement. Very key to our Vision Zero goal. We know it works, we know it saves lives, we know it slows people down, so we urge you to support this. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name is Captain Stacy Flynn. I represent the Montgomery County Police Department. I'm the director of the Policy and Planning Division, and my background is with a lot of traffic enforcement as well as community relations. This is my first time serving as a legislative liaison for the police department, so I appreciate everybody's grace. I am here to testify in support of this bill. I think it's important. I think that the people that have spoken before me this evening, even to include Delegate Kramer, have said it very eloquently, that this is about safety. I think it's important when we talk about this bill, there's a perception sometimes by the public that the police and that legislators want to do this because of a financial situation, and I want to make sure it's very clear that that is not our goal to support this at all. The money does not go to the police department. This is 100% about safety. This is about saving lives so that moms like Mindy don't have to come and testify before you. That's vitally important for us to be able to increase that speed. When speed cameras first started, they were exclusively around the school areas. Then it increased to roads that had up to 35 miles an hour, and now we're asking to stretch it just a little bit further. Again, for safety, as everyone has said, when crashes happen, when speed limits are 45 miles an hour, most often a lot of people are going over 20 miles an hour faster than that, and when crashes happen, it leads to death. So we are simply in support of helping people out and reducing the number of deaths on the roadway. And from a law enforcement perspective, we both look at education as well as enforcement. It's not just about out there writing tickets. I think that's a big perception, but the reality is it's about education and talking to the public. And I think speed cameras sort of speak for themselves when it comes to education. Also, as a mom of 2 teenage drivers, I really think it's important that we do everything that we can. So as a community member, I appreciate your support for this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Good evening. My name is Christopher Tippery, and I am the Director of Operations for Montgomery County Police Automated Traffic Enforcement Unit. I'm the one that runs the day-to-day operations. Just some shocking statistics. Some people out there question whether the program's running. In 2016, we issued 522,006 citations. In 2021, I don't use 22 because it hasn't concluded yet, we issued 318,333 citations for speed. So we have changed the behavior, and we've issued 203,673 less citations than when the program began in 2016. For red lights, in 2016, we issued 71,819 citations. In 2021, 21,857 citations. That's a difference of 49,967 citations less than when we started. So does the program work? Absolutely. Are we portable, mobile, able to go any direction that we want to? Absolutely. The direction of our program so far or into the future is we do not install fixed pole cameras. Our cameras are all portable, so we can touch as many locations as we can. We currently have over 300 approved locations at 35. We're just looking to increase our capability to help reduce some of to reach the Vision Zero goals and reduce some of the deaths on our roadways in those speed enforcement areas of 40 to 45 miles an hour.
Okay, are there any questions for this panel or the speaker? Yes, Delegate Collison.
Is it on? Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Tipper, do you have data on injuries or deaths for those same periods of time, or just a number of citations offered?
I do have fatality Totals, so far this year, there have been 8 fatalities at 40 miles an hour and 4 fatalities at 45 miles an hour.
How does it vary from 2016? Do you have the 2016?
If you go from 2018 to present day, in the 40 to 45 mile an hour range, there's been 72 fatalities in between 40 and 45 miles an hour since 2018.
So, but I guess I'm trying to get at, in addition to the decrease in tickets, we are also significantly decreasing injuries and fatalities.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions? I have a couple questions. Delegate Cullison actually started down the road of my question. Can you get us that data? Because I'm curious of the data up to 35 miles an hour and then up to 45 miles an hour and what the difference is between that 35 and 45?
So between 25 miles an hour and 35 miles an hour from 2018 until today, there's been 82 fatalities in that block that we currently operate in. Where we want to move to, in the area of 40 to 45, there's been 72 fatalities. That's why I want to increase it just to that portion.
Got it. Thank you.
And
you'll give us that information?
Yes.
Great. And that leads into my next question, which is, as we know, the faster you go, the more dangerous it gets. Are you going to be here next year saying we now want 55 miles an hour?
Our goal at 45 is to give us most of the arterial roadways.
And how many roadways will this bill apply to?
I would say there's probably only 3 or 4 roadways that are at 50 currently in the county. The rest are at 45. State Highway keeps reducing some of the speed limits on their roadways, which we get a majority of our complaints from. So it's hard to sometimes coordinate with how many or what future roadways they plan on reducing.
And we're working on a map of all the 40, 45 mile an hour roadways within MCDOT. So with this data, we can also include that map to show you. Just to give you an idea, this would be mostly roads, kind of like Randolph Road in north, some of these larger arterials, sometimes rural roads, just 2-lane roads, also sometimes in the up county that are 40, 45 miles an hour. And, but also some of the bigger roads like New Hampshire Avenue, like north of Olney as well.
Wait, I think that map is actually posted. I was looking at it last night. So Sarah, Madam Chair, I can send it to you when I get to my computer tonight.
Great, that's very helpful. Thank you all.
It's very interactive, actually.
Yes, Senator.
I just wanted to offer the commentary that I'd be just fine if you're back next year seeking 55.
That's all you, Senator Kramer.
You didn't speak those words. I think we should be doing everything that we can to modify behavior with regard to protecting our pedestrians and our motorists to the very best capacity that we can. And I realize this is incremental, and you won't be back next year doing that. But thank you all for the good work that you are doing to protect the residents of Montgomery County. It's very much appreciated. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And as my chair would say, since everything should be in the form of a question, isn't that so? I have one further question, and that is, do you know where the data from these pictures is housed?
Our contractor stores all the.
It's on. It's on.
That's okay. Our contractor. So the way the process works is an image is captured of the vehicle. It's sent to our vendor who does the initial wash through. They send us out of a series of photos that they get of the vehicle that's committing the violation. They reduce it to 3, and then it comes to our division, which I have a group of processors that review the citation for the validity of the citation to ensure that the tag number matches the vehicle that it's issued to, that matches to the make and model of the vehicle that it's issued to. Then it goes for final approval to a police officer that actually reviews all the facts and then issues the citation.
So all of the pictures that the processor has and then the 3 that you all get, what happens to those?
Those are added to the citation and then it's issued to the violator.
And
yeah,
but then what happens to it? How long are they kept?
Oh, it's stored I don't think there is a date. Yeah, it's stored in the cloud system.
Okay, and who has access to that?
The police department, all of us.
The entire police department. Anybody can
well,
access it
no,
anytime.
Traffic division, I'm sorry, I said the police department.
Okay, got it. Any further questions? Yes, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo.
First of all, thank you very much for being up here. And Captain, you did a fabulous job. You really did.
Sir.
Doesn't everybody agree? So with that said, you were talking about the images that are taken and stored. The image you mentioned, the images that are taken and stored are the actual plate. What else exactly is stored? What other images are stored besides the tag and the vehicle?
The vehicle as it moves through it's a video of the vehicle moving through the violation.
Okay. Are you able to see the driver of the vehicle?
No.
So you can't see the face of the driver?
No, it's only an image of the back of the vehicle.
Thank you very much.
There's also the place and time, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. You were a police officer, weren't you, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo?
A few years ago.
Any other questions? Yes, Delegate Wilkins.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Delegate Solomon, for bringing this really important bill. I have a question that I think maybe is for the county or the police. I just wanted to get a sense of the policy that you have in place in terms of elected officials being able to engage around the placement of the cameras. From time to time, pretty often actually constituents come to us with requests around speed. See the last bill that just came up. And as their advocates and representatives, it's important for us to be able to communicate with you and work with you and share that. I've gotten pushback in the past around, as an elected official, influence of the process and sort of a request to not engage in terms of the placements. And this was several years ago, but since we're addressing this bill that maybe will potentially lead to more cameras and potentially more constituent requests, I just wanted to get a sense on what the policy is and us as leaders and representatives of our communities being able to have the opportunity to engage around those placements and provide that feedback on behalf of our constituents.
Thank you very much for that question. I'll jump on that one. So I can tell you that on our Montgomery County Police website, there's actually a link that you can click on to request a speed camera. And from there, your constituents can actually click on it. You're welcome to, your staff can. And from there, the data goes to our traffic division, and each request is analyzed to determine the placement of the speed cameras. Unfortunately, as we all realize, many times the constituents don't realize that the speed limit on the roadway they're asking for that speed camera is over 35 miles an hour. So it's an automatic, sorry, we just can't place it there. And it's hard to explain to them why when all they're simply trying to do is get people to slow down on the road that's probably closer to their house. But that process is you can go on there. The director of the traffic division, that's not my role, but I am familiar with the process. The director of the traffic division can look at the request and then talk about it with Mr. Tippery and his staff and determine whether or not it should be placed in the place that's being requested. But that is something that is added to our police website for transparency and accountability, and we're happy to entertain anybody's request for a speed camera, and that's the process that we go through.
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification.
I would just say I think we had District 18 had a similar experience early on, and I want to just give incredible kudos to this team here, because I think since we've re-engaged, we got 2 speed cameras in parts of our district where there had been either there had been a fatality and near fatality, or actually fatalities in both locations. And the team was incredibly responsive. Kudos to Delegate Shetty for spearheading one of those, and congratulations on your new role.
Any further questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you all for your testimony. I believe we have a few more individuals coming back up. We have, let's see, Ben Ross, Action Committee for Transit, Raymond Lombardo, William Kassman, John Becker, and John Seng.
I'm Ben Ross, speaking for the Action Committee for Transit. I don't want to repeat all the good things that have been said about this bill. Just make 2 comments. One issue that hasn't been raised is the in detail is the extension from residential, so-called residential areas to other areas. And it's important to understand that residential area, as it's defined in the Montgomery County zoning ordinance, is a misnomer. Actually, in many areas, the residential areas are the places that have the lowest population density. Because a residential area is not defined by having residences, it's defined by not having businesses. So, in other words, downtown Bethesda, full of, with our 20 and 30-story apartment buildings, those streets with hundreds of apartments on them in a single block are not residential areas, while the surrounding neighborhoods with quarter-acre lots, and so you'll have 10 housing units on a block, are residential areas. So that's important to understand. And the other thing I would just like to talk about is our amendment. Let me make it clear first that we support the bill, whether it's amended as we request or not. But our amendment is pretty simple. There's now text in the law that is carried over in the amendment that says the speed limit has to have been set by a generally accepted method. However, the setting of speed limits has become extremely controversial, and I fear that you could convince a judge that there's no such thing at this point as a generally accepted method. So I believe that to avoid legal challenges to the whole speed camera program, it would be much wiser to take those few words out of the statute. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll learn sometime. So thank you again to the delegation for your time. My name is John Seng, still representing Safe Roads Maryland, in full support of MC 623. We support all these provisions without any qualifications. We're definitely endorsing speed monitoring systems, not only throughout problem areas, problem roads and highways in Montgomery County, but throughout the state of Maryland. No one in Maryland can drive peacefully, it seems. I drove over here tonight. I took Avery Road, probably 4 miles from Lancaster Mill to Route 28. I had 2 different cars tailgating me just to get to a meeting about aggressive driving and controlling speeds tonight. And anybody you talk to, you can't go through a day without somebody sharing a similar anecdote. Driving in Maryland peacefully is a thing of the past. It's hard to get through a day driving, commuting anywhere without experience. Again, this tailgating, hyper speeding, reckless driving. We need relief and protection just to abide by the speed limit. It's one thing to, police pulls you over for speeding, or you're, photograph speeding using with a camera, but now to abide by the law and, and respect other human beings, I have to put up with people tailgating me. I look down Avery Road, there's 3, 4, 5, 6 cars behind me while yours truly is driving the speed limit. What's wrong with that picture? So we just need this relief and protection. I'll wind up very soon here just to give you sort of a frame of reference, a comparison. I doubt, and I didn't guess this, but in the 20-year period between 2000 and 2020 in U.S. airlines, the number of fatalities from airline travel, which is known to be far safer than road travel, is 19 people in 20 years, 19. But try taking a flight anywhere without being made to buckle your seatbelt. You are forced to buckle your seatbelt, they'll return you to the gate. So something's working in transportation in this country, and it seems to be air travel. We gotta fix what's going on in Maryland. That's your and our working with you to encourage you to do what is right. You compare that figure of 19 to 5,000 approximate deaths over the past 10 years in Maryland alone. So we ask for your support for this bill as it's written and put safety first on our roads. Thank you.
Hi, I'm still Ray Lombardo from Colesville, so nothing changed. Thank you, Delegate Solomon. There's not a lot I can add. There's one little anecdote. So it was probably a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure many of you heard on the news. 2 people died on Randolph Road within an hour or 2 of each other, both high-speed incidents. Just another reason why the bill is needed. So thank you for your time tonight. Appreciate it.
John Becker again with living across the street here, Americana Center, in full support of this bill. I think the opportunity here is to make things safer, not only for us as far as drivers and pedestrians and bicyclists, but it also affects our law enforcement. Our first responders have to respond to an accident. All these people will be working to protect ourselves and to help those who are injured, who can also be injured while responding to these things. Even construction roadway personnel who repair, maintain, build new, the different devices you folks were talking about earlier, they need to be protected from speeders and things of that nature. I fully support this bill, and even though I live in the city of Rockville and I see this as says Montgomery County, I hope that sometime, eventually, even the city of Rockville could be a part of this. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you all. Are there any questions for this panel? Okay, seeing none, whoops. That concludes the testimony on MC 623.